My friends, it's another Foodie Friday here on the Alive and Social Network. Hello, Foodie friends. My name is Brian Turner. You can call me BT. There's my daughter and co-host, Lydia Turner.
Hello, fellow foodies.
Foodies everywhere, unite. We will take over the world if we haven't already. I think we have. I think we have. You know, there's gravitas when you slow the words down.
Is that your trick?
That's my trick. And sometimes I slow down the tone as well. And then there's no gravitas. That's the other side of that coin. So just the slowing down alone will bring some bearing to me saying, look who's here. Barb Abney is joining in the Alive and Social Network studios. Hi, Barb.
Hi, BT. What's going on?
Good to have you here. A little bit of everything going on Foodie Friday. We're going to dive into the world of food that revolves around Barb's past and her current history, and we'll learn a little bit more about Cincinnati chili, I hope, along the way as well.
Always up on talking about Skyline.
She's a hometown Cincinnati girl. And Nikki Metchik is here as well. Hi, Nikki.
Hello.
She is the event sales director for Create Catering and the Dining Studio. And Nikki, we wanted to have you in here today because I think a lot of folks like you in the industry are the unheralded folks of the food world and some that sort of work in the shadows, aside from your CIA background.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to bring up that the shadow work of the food world that Nikki inhabits is, again, behind the scenes, sort of behind the curtain. You know, you're working with clients and potential clients and trying to literally dig up business for the company you work for and then service the clients that you are working with. And
this is all true.
That's sort of an unheralded job. And so I know you've got food stories galore as well. And it's good to have you here.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Good to have you here indeed. Well, here on the Foodie Friday podcast, you know, we really like to just demystify in a lot of ways the world of food as we discuss what's going on. Sure, we like to talk about the special foods that are out there, the special places to eat, and the special dishes maybe that we have in our life. But also, sometimes it just boils down to hot dogs. And we would have had Nate Beck, who's the proprietor of Nate Dogs, on the show today. But he pinged me, as happens in the world of daddom and momdom. Nate's got 5 daughters, and one of his daughters, you know, sick at school, and his wife works during the day. So Nate said, you know, I apologize, I can't make it, and we'll get him scheduled for another Foodie Friday coming up. So, you know, Dad's got to do what Dad's got to do. Mom's got to do what Mom's got to do.
I was hoping we'd get some hot dogs.
Well, I guess there's our shot across the bow here. Nate, when you return, bring some samples. That's all we're asking for is bring some samples.
Rebecca Illingworth kind of set the tone. We got tacos last week from Quinto Cocina y Cantina.
Oh, man, that was really delicious. Yeah, so we want to thank Rebecca for that. In the Foodie Friday world, we also like to bring folks in that sort of don't have direct bearing in a day-to-day fashion in the food world, and that's certainly the case with you, Barb. I mean, you and I are now working together at Go 96.3, the modern rock pop alternative radio station that we launched in early January. It used to be 96.3 K-Twin for folks that may have been listening along the way, and now Go 96.3. How long you been with us now? I'm trying to remember how many weeks it's been. It's short order here.
February 12th was my official first announcement date, and and then the 16th was my first day. So as of today, I've worked 15 on-air shifts.
15. 15 big shows.
I'm pretty excited.
Big Abney shows going down here.
I'm very excited.
It's good to have you on board there.
Thank you.
Barb came to our radio station from 89.3 The Current. So how many years did you work there? I almost said days. It's like, oh no, I don't want you to do the math on that.
Yeah, 8.5 years.
Okay.
I came here in October of 2006, and worked there until January 27th, but then kind of February 11th, and then February 12th I started
There
Go
you go.
96.3.
Yeah. Yeah, you had a little
True
time
story.
between the parting of company.
Yes.
And, you know, a little time has to pass on those that kind of things, whether it's a severance deal or whatever the case may be, you know, and then it's all official. And the very next day you joined in and played with us. So, all right, good to have you on board
It's
that
very
team.
good to be a part of the team.
And it's good to have you here in the studio as well. Very nice indeed.
I wanted to ask both of you guys because you, Dad, and you, Barb, have both been longtime personalities on the radio in the metro area. How with it do you guys feel like you have to be in terms of like foods coming out, restaurants, certain prominent chefs? How do you have that expectation there, or is it self-imposed, or where's that sitting for you guys?
I honestly, I used to listen to why am I forgetting her name now? Lynn Rosetta Casper.
Yeah, on NPR. Yeah.
I would pass her in the hallways, and
I bet you would. That must have been kind of cool.
Can I tell you the first time I met her? I was in the bathroom.
And she's the most delightful woman.
No, seriously.
I'm liking where this story's going already. Well, the first time I was in the bathroom.
And someone else was in the stall next to me. I didn't know. And BT can tell you, when I'm walking around, I can't locomote unless I'm humming, So I walk into the bathroom.
This is true. I've noticed that already.
And I'm like, and she said, "Oh, you have such a beautiful voice." And I'm like, "Oh my God, that's Lynn Rosetta Casper."
Because you knew her voice.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. I've known her voice for years. And I'm like, "Oh my God. Thank you
so much."
So I totally I just listened to the heck out of the Splendid Table, and I bump into those producers along the way. And I'm lucky because, every now and then a place will open. Like Ice House. I got to say, Ice House is like my favorite.
I love Ice House. Yep.
And I love going in there for all different times of day. I love their brunches. Like the savory eclair is the greatest thing ever. And then sitting at the chef's table and watching Chef Matt,
Yep.
I love Ice House so much. And, every now and then a place will come up and it just works out. Like it's a venue and it's like, oh, wait, I can have good food and, watch a great band.
Yeah.
So then it's just kismet that those things work out. But I'm not so with it because I have a long list of things that I can't eat.
You do?
Mm-hmm. I'm allergic to blue cheese and I'm allergic to avocado.
No.
I know. Well, see, I've never I had a terrible allergic reaction, so I don't really know what I'm missing. I've never had guacamole in my life.
So this happened. You knew about these allergies when you were a kid. Then obviously,
I was early 20s when this happened because we just didn't have that stuff. We didn't eat that stuff. And the first time, I had the anaphylactic shock. It was
oh my God.
So I just stay away from those. I'm very limited on what. I'm not allergic to shellfish, but when I was pregnant with my son, I was waiting tables, and the smell of crab legs. Nope, I can't eat that anymore.
Okay,
and
a lot of women will tell us that too.
Yeah.
Is that just from the pregnancy time frame, and then you get turned off at that time because your physiology and everything that's flowing through your body is changing so dramatically, and so if that imprint happens during that time, you're done.
I'm done.
You're done.
I'm done. So I won't eat. I'll eat like lobster and some crab cakes. But I'm not gonna.
I want to go off on this thread with Nikki now because you have 2 boys.
I do.
And did that ever happen with you when you were pregnant and you working in the food world? I mean, this could be a little.
Well, I was a social worker back then, so I wasn't in the food world as hard. But the only thing that I had was chicken, and it was only after about 4 p.m. And then if you brought chicken into my world. Oh.
So it was a time frame
It was
thing.
a time frame,
That's
too.
weird.
Maybe just because I wasn't trying to eat it earlier in the day, I'm not sure. But chicken, no. But that was really the only thing for me.
And does that persist to this day,
No,
then?
I can eat chicken again. Had the babies and I was fine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was just during...
Just during pregnancy.
And individually, then, I would guess. Because, again, you got 2 kids.
I
so
did, yep.
different time. They're not twins.
And for both of them.
Yeah,
Both
so it was
of
a
them,
chicken
no
thing.
chicken. Yep, but bring on Pop-Tarts and I would eat boxes and boxes of Pop-Tarts.
Because I was going to go there next, so now I'll ping back to Barb. So you've got 2 kids as well, so we know some of the things that didn't work for you aside from pregnancy. How about during pregnancy? Were there things you couldn't eat during that time frame?
No.
With either of the kids?
Oh, no, my God, I ate
Obviously,
everything.
aside from the avocado.
No, I ate everything. And I remember, I have never been a skinny person, but I put on so much weight with my son, who just turned 23 today, by the way.
Hey, happy birthday to the boy.
Thank you.
Nice.
I would literally stop at 4 fast food restaurants. I was waiting tables. I would close the restaurant and I would stop at 4 fast food restaurants on my way home just to get I wanted a cheese coney from this restaurant and I wanted cheese sticks from this restaurant. And so I guess cheese and fried things were that's all I wanted.
Top of the list. Yeah. I've never been pregnant, but I get cravings. I get, really, what a surprise, huh? Did I need to say that? But, boy, I get that cheese thing going on, too, that craving, just you got to have it in the fried stuff and all of that. You got to have that.
Your Velveeta and shells and any form of cheese, really, or cheese product.
Yeah, we'll get to guilty pleasure foods in a little bit when we do the Foodie Friday 5. So that's on the way here on Foodie Friday with Barb Abney from Go 96.3 FM Radio and Nikki Mechnick from Great Catering and the Dining Studio. Let me bring this up in honor of Easter. I don't know if honor is the right word, but in foodie news this week, Prairie Farms, a dairy company out of the upper Midwest, is putting out Peeps branded milk. Here's the flavors for you: marshmallow, chocolate marshmallow, and Easter eggnog flavors. Now, they're trying to boast that with 5 grams of protein and 15% of your daily calcium, they're saying go ahead and get into it. Enjoy. But one serving has 250 calories and 37 grams of sugar.
That's like twice what you're supposed to have in a day. Oh,
exactly.
That's. Ugh.
Oh, they're saying our customers want variety, and we are thrilled to partner with Peeps. Yes, those Peeps, the marshmallow Peeps of Easter fame, the marshmallow Peeps of make them blow up in your microwave fame. Peeps milk is 100% real milk, balanced, as they say, with just the right amount of premium ingredients to deliver the sweet. Let me say what they're saying, because I hate when advertisers do this. And I'll also say I do it occasionally because that's the way my brain tumbles, and I hate myself after doing it. Here we go. That sweet Peep-tastic flavor.
Oh my God.
No.
What does that mean? That just means
Premium
that
ingredients.
sweet granulated sugar flavor.
There were some news folks down in St. Louis, Missouri that tried it out, and they said basically like, extra sugary chocolate milk. That's what you got.
I think
going
Lydia's right, though. It would have to have the granule.
Yes, I'm looking for
Granules
blue
in it.
milk, really.
on. Yeah.
Now, if the eggnog is eggnog, I'd actually be okay with extending eggnog season a little bit,
Sure,
But
yeah.
I think it should be colored. Mm-hmm. Right? It should be pastel.
I think, yes, it should
Like
match.
hot pink.
No, I mean, I don't want to drink yellow milk.
No.
Pink
No.
milk, pink or blue milk, I'd be down with for this time. And then, hey, maybe it'll catch on, and then it could be baby shower milk too.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, it could. Yellow
You
milk's,
might be onto something.
Yellow milk's just a little too akin to yellow snow for some reason
exactly,
in my mind's
yeah.
eye. I just don't want to go down that road. Well, I think we've got a consensus of 4 in the room here at the Alive and Social studios. Peeps flavored milk, a big
I'm excited to see where it goes with like peep-tastic cocktails or something with like a little garnish of marshmallow.
Now,
Some sad bunny staring at you.
Now, here's what I'll say about that, and I'm glad you brought it up, because if one of the fine bartenders in this bartender-heavy now community that we live in, I think, Easter time, if one of the great mixy people out there came up with something that was a little peep-oriented, on holidays, whether it's, especially, I should say, Easter and Christmas, I kind of like that
could be
sweetie
cute.
sweet, that hot chocolate, Christmas thing that has a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and there's a little cherry liqueur in there too. That tasted great. It was like
Am I getting like peep
chocolate-covered.
tones? Am I getting little peep tones here?
Yeah, I'm
What am I
a little,
tasting?
a little note of yellow chickadee in here. Yeah, that. So I might try one, is what I'm saying.
I
And,
might try one.
If
I
it
do
was
like
a
the idea
cocktail, though.
of a little bunny head sticking out of my martini glass. I think that'd be good.
Kind of brings new meaning to what do you find in the farmyard today? Well, it's something good to drink. Hey, Barb Abney, Cincinnati, your hometown. Mm-hmm. All right, so give us a little insight into just the general food world in Cincinnati, and then I'll ask you to compare the two, because you've lived in this area for quite a while.
Yeah.
So take us back to Cincy, though. When was the last time you lived there, by the way?
2006.
All right, when you came here for the gig at 89.3 The
I've
Current.
lived in
Got it.
Ohio and I've lived in Minnesota, and that's it. That's it. I was so white trash about everything that I ate. Literally. No. I mean, I truly am. I was born on a farm, and we moved to the big city, which was a 1,500 member community. So I've never really lived in the city until I moved here.
Okay.
So everything was either from a farm and, had a southern kind of thing to it, like soup beans and
And to be
sauerkraut.
clear, you were a farmie, not a townie. You lived on a farm, or you
Right.
lived in a farm community? You were on the farm.
No, I lived
All right,
on a farm.
You were on the farm.
I cut my finger off in a hay baler. I have.
Is that the finger?
Yeah, that's
Let
the
me
finger.
see that rascal.
Oh,
I
they
can
sewed
see
it back
that. There's
on.
something a little weird about that
They
finger.
sewed it
And there's
back
no
on.
nail there.
No, the nail
Yeah.
has it. Yeah, it
Or
grows weird.
just an odd nail.
It grows really
because
weird.
of the-
It has to be cut
Because
out.
of, as they call in the Abney family, the incident.
Yeah, I was 10 years old. My dad's like, "Hold this." I held it, and it went.
Oh!
And I didn't feel it. Okay, sorry. Hey, bloodshed on the farm,
Yeah.
But every farm kid has a scar. I
Has
mean,
a
that's
story.
That's a thing.
you have a scar. But we ate the things that we grew, and then we ate, really southerny kind of stuff. We had all of our family was from Kentucky and that, and so I ate a lot of really horrible for me foods, thinking that they were good, and it's like this fruit salad that my mom makes, and we have to have it, Christmas and Easter, and it is vanilla pudding with sour cream and a can of fruit cocktail, like the super syrupy fruit cocktail.
And include the syrup, I'm guessing.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah, you need that. And then there's marshmallows.
Don't you drain that syrup. Don't you.
There's marshmallows and there's grapes, and it's just, and as a kid, I guess my mom thought that, because she was 16 when she had me, so she was very young. So I guess that she thought that if she was getting fruit into our bodies, it was healthy.
Totally.
Whoopsie. But yeah, everything was just so laden with calories and stuff. And I have been a Gold Star member of the Clean Plate Club my entire life.
There you go.
We just
Yeah,
ate
me too.
lots of the food that, you probably shouldn't eat, a lot of deep fried stuff. And until I started working at a 4-star restaurant, I didn't know any better. I didn't know, oh, hey, salads. This is quite tasty, just things that I never would have known about.
Was the first reaction, what is this dish?
Well, we had, here and there, there'd been a
you had
salad.
salads,
but
of course you did.
like a chef salad, it's like, oh my God, you can eat this, and then you can cut it in half and eat half of it tomorrow. Is perfect.
And who was this man Cobb?
Who's this?
and this delicious creation that I have in front of me.
And
No blue cheese.
No blue cheese.
Right, exactly. No blue cheese.
Or avocado.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's
Keep it
two.
out.
Yep. That's one
Right.
of those things I don't eat. And so I, as I started working in restaurants, in order for me to sell the food to people, I wanted to know what was in it. So Geta. Oh God. I think they call it spackle in some places.
Yeah,
It's a beef, pork, and oatmeal,
Yep.
and it's just, you get it fried, just crisp, and you get it with, oh my God.
It's delicious.
Like the idea of it right now, I'm just salivating at the thought. Geta is definitely a Cincinnati thing, and then there are the Cincinnati chilies, and we could talk for hours as to why Gold Star versus Skyline. I'm a Skyline girl.
All right. Well, we're going to get into that.
Okay.
But I
No,
want
we're
you
not
to,
there yet.
Yep. I want you to finish your narrative. So you move from the town into a city that kind of began where you were, like you mentioned, you worked at a 4-star restaurant. Did you work at any cafes or anything prior to that, or did you just go right from the farm and the fruit salad, and you dove right into I got a gig at a restaurant, and now suddenly here I am.
I worked at a Perkins for a while,
Okay.
which I still know virtually everything on their menu, and so everything omelet, best thing, has all the potatoes inside, perfect.
Yeah.
You hide them. So, but I worked at Perkins for a few years. I was their youngest dining room manager ever at 21.
Nice.
It was ridiculous.
Check you out.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to be, I wanted to wear a power suit at 21, and then I'm like, I really hate this job. So I went back to school to be in radio, had a kid, that kind of stuff.
And by the way, did they have one of those microphones at the checkout, so you got your first microphone experience as a manager? Louise, orders up on table 17. Louise, table 17.
No, sadly. No, I didn't do the microphone thing until I got hired into radio.
You got into the biz there.
Yeah.
Right on.
But the 4-star that I worked at was in downtown Cincinnati. Well, just outside of downtown Cincinnati, and it's the flagship restaurant of the First Watch chain, but it's attached to a hotel, and it's the National Exemplar Restaurant, and it's part of the Marymount community. And the Marymount community was a planned community from I think the 1700s. Don't quote me on that. Where people moved, and in order to live there, you have to go up in front of town council,
a decision board
yes,
of some
whether
some
or
kind.
not you can buy this house or not. You
God.
are weighed and measured, and and this place has it's just everything's old, and this hotel is just a hugely popular hotel. All this old dark wood and stuff, and I started serving food. The nights were much more of the 4-star variety. The days where I worked were brunch and lunch, and there were your typical sandwiches, but then there were crepe eggs, which were crepes lined with the equivalent of one egg, and the best one had avocado in it, so I just kept that out. But I learned, I started eating different things, and I had the crepes, and I'm like, oh, what is this thing? What's a quesadilla. Oh, it's a quesadilla.
Okay, yeah.
You know, Blanchester, Ohio, we didn't have no quesadillas.
Nope.
So I, you know, just
The south of the border was the Ohio River.
Right. So we just started, I would try these foods, and I would, you know, make sure I tried the special, whatever it was. And over the years, you know, I got to try some great fishes and, you know, different cuts of meat that I'd ever had. And so I have an idea about food.
But a truly eye-opening experience for you,
Quite.
and a palate-opening experience for you as well.
Totally.
It sounds like, by the way, and there were many of those planned communities and such, and I know Nikki's family background. It sounds like they wanted to keep the Jews out. You know,
Maybe so.
Were you thinking that
Maybe
too? I mean, you know, I
so.
think there was a lot of that stuff going on. You know, you got to take a vote. You know, I'm sorry, Mr. Goldstein. But no,
You
I
do
mean,
not
you know,
pass.
you do not pass. You know, but I'm bringing locks. You don't.
We
People
don't want
need
your
locks.
locks.
Yeah, we don't need your locks.
Do you
there.
have old money? Old money is welcome.
Welcome.
And you know what? That's often where the line was drawn. It's like,
Exactly.
well,
Yeah. Nouveau
okay.
riche. We want old money.
We'll see what you got there. Can you show us your balance sheet, please?
Kind of.
Yeah. Where did you first discover, then, aside from the fine dining and your palate and all that, Cincinnati chili must have come to you along the way prior to that. And so where was that first Cincinnati chili experience for you?
I would guess I was probably a kid, and my parents would take us. You could get Empress chili frozen at Kroger. Kroger is like a
grocery store
Yeah,
chain.
yeah. And you could get it frozen there, and I guess you can get Skyline frozen there now. But I think that first time I had it, it was Empress chili, and my mom would bring it home and make it. And you know, my mom still makes. I really like thick-based tomato chili, but Cincinnati-style chili is not a thick chili. It's
a
more
little
like
more
a gravy.
soupy. Yeah. And
it
we
is.
should help us explain here to our listeners that may not know. And you're one of them? You don't know what Cincinnati
I
chili is,
don't.
Nikki?
I
Okay.
don't think I've had
Okay.
it. and I
It's
love
absolutely
chili.
delicious.
It is.
We've been making it at our house for years, and we got the recipe once checking out at the Lunds on 50th and France, and they had one of those little recipe cards that you get at checkout. And my wife and I were there. It's like, this looks good, and you serve it over spaghetti with toppings. Wow! And so, help us out, Barb. Give us the explanation of what a Cincinnati chili is, and then the ways, as it were, the numbered ways.
Okay. I don't know exactly what all the secret ingredients are. I know that there's some cocoa and some cinnamon in it.
Yep, you've got those two in
and
for
I do
sure.
believe some smack because I want it so bad. Because ever since moving here, it's like, you know, wait, you're going to Cincinnati? Can you here's $50.
For our,
Grab me.
for our
Just take it.
podcast listeners, when she brought up the smack, I just want to make it clear on a visual sense that she took her fingers and did the old get the vein on the arm standing up because
Get my chili IV ready.
I'm going to get my hypodermic chili needle ready.
It's so good. Okay, so they take the meat, the ground beef, and I don't know how they make it so fine, but they boil it. They boil the beef, the ground
Now that's
beef.
the traditional. We don't do that at our house. You know, we just do the cook it up first, but we bust it up so that it's really
It's gotta
fine.
be tiny.
Yeah,
It's gotta
really
be
the
super
tiny,
fine.
tiny little meat nodules. Yeah.
And it's just they have it in vats. It's a Greek chili recipe, and it's only served in like the greater Cincinnati area. The closest one from here is 2 exits away from Ohio in Indiana. There's one Skyline Chili in Florida. And where Jason Nagel's father lives, by the way.
Okay.
There's one restaurant there.
One of our radio co-workers.
Yeah. Somebody retired and moved down there.
And Skyline's a restaurant chain then, right?
Oh, it is a chain. Yeah, it is a
okay,
chain.
yeah.
But it's only in this certain area. You can buy them in grocery stores in Ithaca, New York. I had a friend who used to send it to me. Right, Ithaca,
Random.
why? But even people in Columbus and Cleveland don't have the chili thing.
Yeah.
They don't have it. But in Cincinnati, you're not going to go a mile without bumping into a Skyline or Gold Star. And there are several different theories of I am a Skyline girl, period. Gold Stars, nah. They're very comparable, but it's just about the seasoning, the difference in seasoning and the difference in just the presentation.
We heard that in a pizza story out of New Haven, Connecticut from
Yep.
Ellen Stanley on a Foodie Friday a couple of weeks ago. Same sort of thing, the 2 big ones in town and they're making a similar pie, but you're either one or
Yep,
you're the other.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there's Camp Washington chili. There is a whole Cincinnati chili thing, and anytime I meet somebody from Cincinnati, I'm like, which are you? Are you Skyline or Gold Star? Which one did you have last? Because, it's...
Helps you understand them.
It really does.
Yeah.
So it's this soupy gravy-like chili.
It is soupy gravy chili.
Yeah, again, a little cocoa, a little cinnamon, served on spaghetti.
Spaghetti, nice.
All right.
Okay, thin spaghetti drained really well, and then it's served over it, and then it just drowned in it. And then like a room temperature mild cheddar cheese. Okay, that, my friend, is a 3-way. Okay,
So you got
that's
the
a
1,
3-way.
the 2, the
I could
3.
get down
Yep.
with that.
Yeah,
Now, just don't
spaghetti.
ask a restaurant person here in town for a 3-way.
That's a good tip. Thank you, Barb.
That's how I found out real quick that nobody knew what the hell I was talking about. I'm like, okay.
But that was a really fun night.
As a matter of fact.
I've got pictures posted. Visit my Facebook page.
And then a 4-way, you either throw on kidney beans or finely chopped onions. A 5-way is everything. And you top it with oyster crackers. And if you really want to get adventurous, throw some sour cream on there, too.
Yeah, I always do a dollop of sour cream.
I want to do all of it.
Yeah.
And the conies. Oh, my God. Conies, they're this big. Our chili dogs, but they're special. They're only about this big. The hot dogs are that big. The buns are steamed to perfection. And I know, see, doesn't it make you hungry just thinking about it? And you put mustard and onions on it, as well as the chili, and they take just a handful of cheese. You watch them; they get down in there and they shake it about this much. They get a perfect handful and just slop it on.
Boom.
So yeah, I would often, when people would come through when I was working in radio in Cincinnati, I'd tell bands would say, "Where should we go get food? What do you suggest?" I'm like, "Oh, you should get Skyline." And then my music director would always come behind me and say, "Do not listen to her. You're a touring band. You do not want Skyline. Go get a can at the grocery store and have it when you get home."
Nice.
And I'm like, "You want real Cincinnati? You're gonna get the gas to go with it."
That's the way we do
It
it.
totally is.
I'm surprised that from all the episodes of WKRP in Cincinnati, I don't recall if Cincinnati chili was ever referenced once on that TV show.
They never were in Cincinnati. That's why.
What do you mean?
They
were
was
like,
not shot in
it
Cincinnati.
Oh,
wasn't
I know,
shot
but obviously, but
for the realism.
You would
yeah,
think.
the
You would
whole
think.
deal, right? The whole
No.
deal. I mean, when that tragedy happened with the Who
concert was on there,
concert,
yeah.
they made that a part of the show, and that
Totally.
was an interesting spin for that comedy show to take something serious and bring it into the comedy narrative, and they handled it really well.
They
It was
did.
beautiful. It was a beautiful piece of television, but they should have worked the Epicurean side. They should have put. I think probably Dr. Johnny Fever talked about 3-ways on the air from time to
He
time.
probably
I
was doing it
at the same
a-
time.
a
But
whole-
no,
a
that
whole
was the other
different thing
kind.
altogether, different one.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyhow, I'm surprised that they didn't.
Johnny talked about it. Venus probably did it.
It's time on Foodie Friday to bring you up to speed on a couple of things happening in the food world. The Food and Wine Experience. Happening soon. Target Field, just across the way from where Barb and I ply our trade in the Go 96.3 studios. We're in the Ford Center building. Target Field, of course, the home of our Minnesota Twins baseball club, and that's where the Food and Wine Show has been going on for a pretty good stretch now. 200 exhibitors inside the Metropolitan and Legends Club, and they've got things going on both March 7th and 8th. Tickets $80 in advance online, $85 at the door. Again, subject to availability because it's always a hugely popular thing. Lydia will attest to this. Our family, we had a small boutique fine foods company that ran for a pretty good stretch, and we were at the Food and Wine
Yeah.
Show a number of years.
That
and
was always my favorite event to go to.
Yeah, wasn't it,
and,
though?
Yep. Well, just wandering around when it's like mom has everything covered. She's like, just go check it out. Just go check it out. Here's your wine glass.
Yep.
Which it's so dorky, but I love it that everybody has a wine glass on a lanyard there for easily accessibility.
So you can let the drink hang,
Yep.
and then still have two hands, not just one, two hands,
You need to.
to make sure you get some
And a
food
doggy.
going there.
Yeah. But it's
You
always
need
the
one
little
to
tidbits.
push people out of your way.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
can get
That's
to
a part of that, too.
That's why you need both your hands.
Both
there.
hands here. I like
And
the way you're thinking
elbows.
better, Metchnick. I like that a lot. Get out of here. An elbow there. Don't spill my lanyard.
Yep.
We'll throw some props to your former employer because it benefits Minnesota Public Radio, and that's a good thing. Public radio and public television support those causes where you can. But moreover, as Barb and I would like to attest to, support public television in a huge way, but really commercial broadcasting and podcasting. Support those even bigger. Yep, okay. Yep, right on. Right on. So we're looking, we put it out there correctly, didn't we?
I think
Darn
so.
right we did. But we'll throw some props to NPR all the same. Foodwineshow.com for more information. And You can do this right now. This is something General Mills has had going on for a pretty good stretch. It's 4 years now. The People's Choice Food Awards, and they get your votes through their website, tablespoon.com. Okay, on the website you'll see 100 of the top food experiences in America. In America, that is, as chosen by a panel of tastemakers out there. And Andrew Zimmern, local guy out of New York, but longtime local guy for us here, top foodie guy here, Bizarre Foods, etc. He's leading this panel of 43 folks. Local nominees on this thing, again, 100 top food experiences, include the folks at Marvel Bar, the Perennial Plate Food Blog, Surly Brewing's on there,
Nice.
Glam Doll Donuts is on
God,
there. I
yes.
knew I'd get some salivating going with that. And Pizzeria Lola. So you can vote daily. You can vote daily through the end of this month, March 31st. Go to that website, tablespoon.com, /the Munchies. That's what they call it. The Munchies Awards. And so get your votes in there. Nikki Metchnick, tell us a little bit about what's going on in the world of Create Catering in the Dining Studio. First off, for our podcast listeners here on Foodie Friday, this is a pretty unique place to do what you do because Create Catering not only is a catering company by name, but the Dining Studio, you actually have a place where people can come and do their deal, a wedding or whatever. Yeah, give us a little insight into where the spot is.
So Philip Dorward is our head chef and owner and all that jazz, and good friend of BT. He worked in the restaurant industry in town here, had Table of Contents, which was a great restaurant, worked there for long time. That closed probably 10, 12 years ago. He hopped around a little bit to a few different places and knew that he and his wife Des wanted to have a family sometime in the near future.
And the restaurant world does not allow that very
really
well.
It really does not. So the last restaurant that he worked at, he decided would be his last, and he decided to take the excellent food that he loved to make and do it in homes for people in the catering world.
You brought up that Philip and I are good friends, and we are, and we brought some props to both Andrew Zimmern and Philip Dorward. It was either last week or the week before on Foodie Friday, because this whole foodie name of the week thing began on my old radio station, Cities 97. And I'll repeat the story real quick. And Andrew was our first, for Lee Valsvik and I, my co-host on the show. Andrew was our first Foodie Thursday, as we called it, because that's when we did the show, co-host, and then his Bizarre Foods thing took off. So it's like, well, I'm sorry, I can't make it. You know, I'm flying off to Singapore to eat snakeheads and some bugs. I eat bugs, and so I asked Flip. I was only acquainted with him, and I said, well, you know, I think you'd be great. You know, would you like to do this? And so we did that show together every Thursday for about 7 years, as I recall.
It was a long time.
So props to Flip, and so there's a lot of dots to connect in this very small. This food world is pretty small. Yeah,
world.
pretty cool stuff. Yeah.
So, Nikki, you had mentioned earlier that you were a social worker before doing this stuff. Was it a part of your life before that, or has it always kind of been there? You mentioned that you went to CIA as well. So how was that storyline?
He mentioned that. I didn't really. Philip did.
Philip did, yeah.
Food has always been.
I was, to be clear for our foodie listeners that don't know, because the CIA is the Culinary Institute of America, and so that it's a legendary, renowned food school.
Yep.
But of course, I was mentioning your work in the shadows.
Exactly.
And I was referencing the Central Intelligence Agency.
That's on me.
No, I'm glad you brought it up because I mentioned CIA earlier in such a glib way. It could have been, and it was easily confused
what I thought.
because of the food world, right?
Wow, you're out about it.
Yeah.
We're supposed to talk about that kind of stuff.
So, Nikki can't talk about her Central Intelligence Agency work
I can
any
only
longer.
talk about food.
Yeah, there you go. Anyhow, I'm glad you brought that up. That's funny.
That is funny. So yeah, food has always been a big part of my life. My mom was a great cook, so growing up, always had great food and family dinners and that whole thing, and was fortunate enough to be able to be out in the food scene a little bit growing up too, and going to restaurants and stuff. So it's always been a part of my life, always something that was a hobby and that I loved to do. Then I was the social worker and did that for 4 years, had my kids, and was home with my kids for 7 years, and my husband's a realtor. And when the market went so terribly south.
So that would have been like 08, yeah?
Yep. He fired me from being a stay-at-home mom, is what I like to say. And so at that point, I actually the stars were just completely in alignment, and I ended up finding Philip, who'd been doing the catering for a couple years by the time I started. And right when I started, he was starting the dining studio, so he needed somebody to help sell the space. He was too busy fielding the phone calls, so it kind of started as a come on board and we'll get you answering phone calls and meeting with clients and doing the sales. And I thought, I've never done sales before. I don't know how to do sales. And he's like, you're going to be just fine. So that's how it started, and that's how I ended up there. And it's been amazing.
It's been an amazing adventure for you.
And I've just learned more and more about the food world, and I love being immersed in it and helping people plan their menus and doing cool new stuff.
Well, and with that kind of planning, how much do you need to know? Like I asked these two ahead of time, how much they feel this need to know the current situation with food, with your job and all the buckets that you are in charge of, as far as planning, decor, different kinds of foods that you can have, what your crew can take on.
Absolutely.
How do you feel that need as well to be really up to date with everything?
I feel like I need to be pretty up to date, and Corey and Philip do a great job. Corey's our chef de cuisine, and he does a really great job, and they both are so on top of all the trends, but I'm kind of right in there with them as we're putting menus together and suggesting things to clients and new things that we can try. So definitely need to know what's going on a little bit.
Do you ever jump into the kitchen? I mean, to at least watch what's going on, or and I might ask also. Sometimes everybody's in the breach, I would think, huh?
Yep, I have. I've jumped in. I was doing flatware roll-ups today, as a matter of fact. Not that's really in the middle of the kitchen, but yeah, I have a couple of times, and there have been times when Philip has said, I want you to just go figure out how to make oxtail. So one day I was in there with frozen oxtail, hacking them apart and getting those ready to go and be braised for hours and hours and hours. But it's fun, and I learn stuff all the time there.
I bet you do.
Yeah.
Do you, and I'm going to ask around the table here too, do you watch the food shows? I mean, now that you're immersed more in it, because food as entertainment out there is also sort of food as we're finding out, food as an education for so many people. Mm-hmm. Just to watch some of the chef shows and the Iron This and the instructional that. I think with the exception of Mr. Spiky Hair Guy Fieri, although I learn an occasional thing or two with Guy. But that being said, do you watch those things?
I used to all the time, and I probably in the last year or so it's dwindled a little bit. I think just with the 12 and 14-year-old boys were a little busy, so I don't sit around and watch the food shows as much as I used to, but absolutely there's stuff to learn from them, and they're entertaining.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
They're fun.
Yeah.
They're fun to see.
I like the Chopped and those things because I always think, my guys could do that, or my gals could get in there and do that.
The Guy Fieri diss that it sounded like I put out there, well, there's some diss to it, just to say. But it always seems with those recipes, and we're going to just put a little more butter in there, and then we're going to add some more fat, and then, it always seems to be
And could
that.
he take bigger bites? Really?
Come on, Guy.
I don't know how he tastes it when you
got that much food in there.
Yeah, I just don't.
How about you, Barb? Do you watch any of those food shows at all? Do you watch much TV, first off, and do you watch any of those food shows and learn things from it or what have you?
I watch far too much TV, but we spent, as a family, we watch a lot of, oh my God, what is the British guy who screams at everybody all the time? Chef Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay,
So
yeah.
we watch like Hell's Kitchen and they just had the
hotel
kids.
one, and
We watched that for a while.
Yep.
They had the kids, America's Master Chef Junior and stuff, and they have Master Chef, but we've watched the Canadian version of Master Chef, and then there's this British show where basically they all make, it's all competition. So all the cooking competition shows.
That's what I like to watch.
I find us watching those.
TPT has a PBS show. I think it probably comes from British television, the Great British Bake Off, which has been kind of fun to watch lately,
oh my
too.
God,
Is that the one you're talking about
that
there?
Is the one. That just ended last week, I think.
Okay, they probably had the big competition final or something like that. Yeah.
I won't tell you who won, but there were windmills involved. It was pretty amazing. And and those things are kind of like Pinterest too, because you watch and you're like, oh hell yeah, I'm going to do that.
I could make a foam.
Right? It's like I have this pancake. I got this silly pancake cookbook at one point over in NPR, and I learned that, to take the bottle and you can make pancakes in any shape. You put a little food coloring in them, you can make them any color. So I am expected to make special pancakes for everyone's birthdays. Okay.
Nice.
And then I heard pancake muffins, and I saw this on Pinterest, right? Yeah, right. You put your pancake mix in a muffin tin, and it raises up, and it bakes whole hollow here, and then you can put your jam or whatever in them. Yeah, it didn't work for me. It was it was a super Pinterest fail. However, it has started something new in our house: pancake muffins. We have to have pancake muffins a couple of times a year now.
Nice.
You just put muffin batter or pancake batter in a muffin tin, and then it's there. You can actually pour a little bit of syrup on it, like when it's halfway through baking.
Okay, and then that syrup gets a little embedded in the dough.
It's less messy than dipping your pancakes in it, but that's usually how anything that works for me in the kitchen happens.
Yeah.
It's from failure, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh well, this was supposed to be that, but instead it's this, so this is what I meant to do.
Oh yeah.
That's how I discovered meatloaf muffins.
Meatloaf
muffins.
Yes, because I was making meatloaf, but I had this huge pan of turkey loaf ready to go, and I realized that we needed to eat within a half an hour, and this certainly wasn't going to cook. So I said, let's put it in muffin tins.
Great
so we put it
idea.
in muffin tins, and they cooked in half hour. We were ready to go.
Far less time because it's just a little cluster of meat instead of a big loaf.
Exactly.
And everybody loved it.
Everybody loved it.
Yeah, it was
Serving
perfect.
They had their own
size.
little crunchy bits around the edge, and it's good stuff.
Everybody gets an edge with that. I
Exactly.
never even thought of that.
Exactly.
We like the crusty bits,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
We learned, and we see watching these shows, and you learn when you do it more that the Bake Off show, baking is science. And cooking is art.
Absolutely.
Because of the fact that you can massage things in cooking. When the chemistry doesn't work out in a baked good, you just
You're
toss
done.
it out and start all over
Yep.
again.
Yep.
Do you guys see that? I mean, have you massaged things at Create Catering in the dining studio? And my question is this: that because of the thing that we were trying to start off didn't work out, let's massage it, and suddenly you end up with something that's better than what you began with. Have you seen stories like that unfold?
The boys certainly have done that with. I don't know that I have a great example, but I was just talking to one of my chefs the other day about the baking thing, and that his grandma used to be able to eyeball the baking, and I said, how is that possible that she could do that? But yeah, typically it doesn't work with the baking at all. But yeah, things have turned into new and different things at the studio when they played with things.
Yeah, just because, and often because a mistake happens.
Yep.
Yeah, serendipity occurs.
Yep.
Well, you brought up the boys in the kitchen at Create Catering in the dining studio. One thing that happened this past week, it's the March edition of Minneapolis St. Paul Magazine, and we wanted to bring that up in the context of what's happening here on Foodie Friday. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of chefs on the front cover. And it's a bunch of dudes.
I did also say girls in my kitchen earlier. I have
Yeah,
to
you
make
did.
sure that I said that.
Yep. Good point. But all that being said, nothing but guys on there, and there's been a bit of a kerfuffle in the
There
social
has.
media world. Have you followed any? Have you seen any of that,
I've seen
Barb?
it.
Yeah,
I've seen
and you,
some.
Nikki, you
I
certainly have,
absolutely
because that's a
have.
big part of the business
Yep.
there. Lids has got some notes on a few things in that regard.
Someone commented on it saying, "We're outraged at the viewpoint taken by the cover and subsequent editorial comments on the March issue of Minneapolis St. Paul Magazine depicting the best chefs of the Twin Cities as all male. It's a false and embarrassing representation of our diverse food community. Did anybody notice that your mothers, wives, and sisters weren't in the room?" So there's been a lot of speculations from both sides of it. I know that Gary Johnson, who's editor-in-chief there.
No, he's the president of
President,
MSP
thank you.
Communications. Yeah, he's the president there. Gary, in a rebuttal, quite succinctly said that people are going to have their opinions, more or less always, but 80% of our staff is female. Our editor is female. The people that are our food staff. Dara Moskowitz-Grumdahl and Stephanie March, and they're women. And so he said essentially there was never a decision to, exclude women. It was just, and best is a very nebulous term
Right.
in the first
Right.
place.
Absolutely.
But also it remains, and Nikki, you can probably attest to this from the insider perspective, that it still remains a predominantly male industry, although some incredible inroads are
There's some
happening.
great-
And there's
yes.
some great women chefs out there.
Absolutely.
In the same issue of Minneapolis St. Paul Magazine, the March one that's on stands now,
Is Lucia.
is
Lucia
Right,
Watson.
Lucia
exactly.
Watson.
She's in there.
Yeah, a huge article about
Yep.
the great food talent and entrepreneur and restaurateur that Lucia Watson is. So Gary said, you know what, the decision that was made was simply then to just choose from the best, irrespective of gender, skin color, or
Absolutely.
sexual or religious orientation or what have you. So let's just then let everything be on the wayside, and let's just call it what it is.
Yep.
And that's what they did.
Right. That's what they did.
Well, and it's a great highlight highlighting of all the restaurants in the area,
Exactly.
the top restaurants. And that's kind of what the entire article is about. It's not about who's the best chef in the metro area. It's about what's the best food you can get.
It's highlighting the restaurants.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there are not female chefs at the heads of any of those restaurants, which is the problem. There are great female chefs out there. It's not their restaurant yet, though.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So that makes it difficult. And then, too, do you pick women just to pick women? It seems like it waters it down a little bit if
Yeah,
you
it
do
does.
that. And
It
it
certainly
sort of
does.
changes the perspective if you do that.
Joy Summers wrote about that on the online blog site. What's the name of that site that she writes? Is it Eat This Lid?
It's Eat Minneapolis, or I don't remember.
Yeah, no worries at all. No worries at all. But Joy's a food blogger in the area and a food writer, and she brought it up in a unique article too. That sidebar to all of this stuff happening here. So props to her. But I guess the bottom line is let it be what it is, and there's, as Taylor Swift would say, haters are always going to hate.
They're gonna hate.
Haters are always going to hate.
Hate.
That they
Yep.
are. It's time on the show for the Foodie Friday 5. 5 questions that we like to ask of our guests here. We're going to begin with Nikki Metchik. She's the event sales director at Create Catering and the Dining Studio in Northeast Minneapolis. Nikki, real quick before the Foodie Friday 5, the Create Catering Dining Studio is in the Waterford building, so just off the corner of Central and
Broadway.
and Broadway.
Yep, the Waterbury building.
The
So it's
Waterbury, thank you, yep.
Big red building there, and we're nestled in there. It's great.
Kind of tucked right next to that General Mills mill.
Yes.
That's, again, just off that corner there.
Exactly, where they make oatmeal and you can smell it.
Yeah,
oatmeal
I bet
cooking.
you can. I bet you can. The folks at Novartis had one of their plants that made one of their energy-type chocolate energy drinks, and the old station that I worked at in St. Louis, it was located in St. Louis Park, and that plant was about a half a block away, and on their production days, you'd walk into the studio, and they'd usually do an overnight thing, where they're making the stuff all night long, and then packaging it, and so it was just a cycle of production that happened every now and again, once a week or twice a week. But those mornings, there'd be this wafting Nestle's Quick sort of Ovaltine, powdery smell wafting through the air.
A chocolate product.
So
A chocolate product, yeah, and you'd walk in to do the show that morning, and you'd leave the house going, I wasn't too hungry, but now, damn, I hope there's, oh God, I hope I left something in the fridge in the employee lunch area there. Nikki Metchik, what's the first thing you ever made by yourself in the kitchen that you had to cook? So not like a peanut butter and your jelly thing, blah blah blah. You had to cook. You had to think about it. You had to cook.
Wow. Probably like banana bread.
All right, yeah.
I think a
Wow.
banana bread, something like that.
Yeah,
maybe.
pretty straightforward,
Yeah,
pretty simple.
Follow a recipe, just
Yep.
recipe. Follow the recipe.
Self-rising bread, nothing to it.
Or you know what? Taking it back a notch. Oatmeal, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm going with the banana bread.
Do that.
'cause
I like that better.
Yeah, because
I sound much more
Yeah, well, because
skilled
the oatmeal's like maybe a quarter of a notch above peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah,
okay. It's pretty much you're just hovering and stirring. You had to
Absolutely.
put things together and measure
I did.
properly and
Yep.
all that stuff. Banana bread.
Yep.
Barb Abney from Go 96.3. What's the first thing you ever made by yourself in the kitchen that you had to cook?
Scrambled eggs.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Scrambled eggs.
Yeah. Nikki Metchnik, this is an interesting question on the Foodie Friday 5, so I want you to think about it for a second. We'll give you a little parameters. What's the most pretentious food that you crave? And by pretentious, we mean...
It's, we're all just trying to demystify the term foodie. And I think that there's a lot to be said about the food that we eat and what it says about who we are. And picking out these kind of selective ingredients or cocktails or dishes that may come across as, who are you all of a sudden?
Look at Nikki there. Wow.
I am a huge fan of truffle butter, and anytime it's like, I just wish there was some truffle butter with this. It's like, oh, do you, Linnea? Do you?
Regular butter's not good enough for you.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I would say mine's along those lines, and it's not super fancy, but and I'm forgetting the type now, but sea salt. And
Oh,
it's
yeah, okay. Is it a
Malden,
certain- it's
just
a certain
Malden,
kind?
Malden salt. And when I started asking for that in restaurants, I felt like
Oh.
I've gone way too far, but I need the Malden to finish this dish off. So I
That
would say
one
Malden.
specifically,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There you go.
It's the flaky, crunchy, and
Yeah.
it just adds texture
And
to
if
the
somebody
meal
was
too.
maybe an outsider looking in, well, geez.
She has done that.
Well. Barb Abney, what's the most pretentious food given the context that we put out there for you? And again, cocktail could be a cocktail. The foodie world's a pretty big sphere, so you know where we're coming from here.
Okay, so maybe you know what this is called, because I don't know what it's actually called.
Okay.
I just had it like 3 weeks ago, and I swear to God, I want it all the time. Like,
This is a recent thing. You want to smack your
I know.
arm like
It's kinda there.
the
It's
smack
kinda
thing again?
Well, quail eggs. Everybody's like talks about quail eggs, and I had never had one, and I'm like, what's the big flippin' deal? It's an egg.
Because it's like
What's
a
the
James
deal?
Bond thing, Russian caviar, vodka, and quail's eggs.
And I'm like,
Yes.
what's so special about that? And then I actually had one at Ice House, and it was on this perfectly cooked red pepper, and then some kind of like creamy cheese, and then the quail egg, and it was just like a one little bite, and it's just like the things that happen in my mouth. I'm just sitting there going, and I don't even know what it's called, but now I'm like, I go back and I'm like, can you make me one of those things again? I don't even know what it's called. Barb, whatever. Okay, yeah, sure.
We got you.
Like, I don't even know what it's called.
Barb Abney's eating quail's egg. Well, but that's the thing. But that's the unabashed part about this is that you like it. It may seem pretentious, but you just go, I don't care
God,
what you think.
So good. You have to try it if you haven't.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something that in that Minneapolis St. Paul magazine is you look at all the descriptions of these restaurants, and it's a lot of these. It's undeniable. They play by no rules. People are just making what they want to make. That's good. And I think that's something that's really cool about the metro area is we have all these cool restaurants with really great food and potentially what may seem as pretentious ingredients. And it's about bashing that off. It's like, it tastes good, dude. This is great. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with
I
that
will
at
have
all.
the quail egg, actually.
Exactly.
No.
Wrapped in bacon.
Oh, God. Now that sounds really great.
Now we're going somewhere. Nikki Metchnick, which person in your life taught you the most about food, or maybe still be teaching you about food? So you can go either way.
I have to pick one. Philip Dorwart.
Philip
I gotta
Dorwart,
say,
yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Sounds good.
My mom early on.
Because you did mention Mom earlier,
yeah. Yeah, but I think Philip, because he's the one I call for everything now.
So you've got a resource there and a boss there.
I do.
So that's pretty
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
All right. How about you, Barb Abney? Person that taught you the most about food, again, could still be around teaching you about food.
Actually, I would say it would have to be my mom because she was a baker. And, I may have had a limited palate, but she taught me all those things. And now that she's retired and she's always like, Boogie, I had this. Have you ever had this? And it's like, Mom, yes. And so she's still teaching me things. And yeah.
What's the most recent thing that she may have taught you that you'd like to share with us here? I mean, if she's still teaching you there.
Well, there's this family recipe that's always passed down that we've had it all the holidays. And it's something that you only get twice a year because it's such a big deal. And it's apple stack cake, and it's basically like a molasses pancake. It's you bake it in. I made it in square pans because I wanted to change it up and make it different. And I've been begging my mother for this recipe forever. It was my grandmother's recipe and my great grandmother's before it. And it's basically like a molasses pancake, and then a layer of dried apples that you've kind of reconstituted with sugar and made into more of a jelly, and then another pancake, and you just keep layering these things. And the pancakes themselves are, it's cake, but they're they're like this. That's a pancake, right? If it's about a half inch thick, it's a
that'll work.
pancake. It's not a cake anymore.
No.
But it is a cake. You just keep layering it up and up and up. And I wanted to mix it up, and I made mine square instead of round because I wanted to take ownership. But I had to adhere to the recipe, but to take ownership, I had to change the damn shape. And it was like, I was so excited to be able to do it. And I cooked one for my mom, too, because I knew that she didn't have – I had gone to get the dried apples because they didn't have any on the farm that year. And it was so awesome. So I tried to send one home to Ohio. Wasn't so easy to send.
Send a cake.
Yeah, and it's all bashed up, and it was like a ball. They ate it. That's what I heard was that they ate it. And that was one that I was really excited about.
That's a recipe that you see twice a year, or just
the food itself. We would have the cake twice a year.
When was that?
It was at Christmas and sometime during the summer.
Okay.
Not near my birthday in August, but maybe sometime during the summer. So every 6 months. I don't know if it was intentionally that way for a reason, but only twice a year.
Is that one of those dishes that like evokes really strong memories for you, that you just connect with that, and you can even smell it? And
thinking about it now, it's like I see my grandmother's, like the keeper that she would put the cake in, and you never know what kind of cake was going to be in that cake keeper. You know, that big old Rubbermaid cake keeper. She probably got it when she was newlywed, and all these years later, you know, it's still there. And I've told Mom, I'm like, I don't want any of her china or anything. I want her cake keeper
for sure.
Yeah, and the cookie, the you know, the Rubbermaid cookie thing that it looks like it's brand new. That is, I know, 55 years old.
That's awesome.
And you know, still probably has those chocolate no-bake cookies in it.
Yeah, and you cherish those kind of tools. Yes. You know, whether it's a cake keeper or something, or a cast iron skillet that you inherited from somebody, or who knows what. I mean,
yeah, totally.
These are the things you just want to hold on to and just make sure you preserve forever. Nikki Mechnik, the smell of this food makes you feel the hungriest. The smell, not so much the taste, just the smell, the evocative sense that is smell.
Cinnamon rolls.
Cinnamon rolls makes you feel the hungriest.
Choice.
Yep.
Barb Abney, the smell of this food makes you feel the hungriest.
Same. Donuts.
Sweet.
Okay. Yeah. So when Glam Dolls was mentioned earlier, that's why.
Dude,
I thought I did. In
She
the mix of the
reacted.
elation, I thought I heard the biggest reaction come from Barb Abney.
I'm like, oh yeah, it's only 20 blocks up. I can do it.
not even.
From here? Oh yeah, it's
That's
even
right.
more-
It's only
It's on
10 blocks.
26th. We're on 35th.
Oh my God, that's right. Well,
9 blocks.
Boom, boom.
Nikki Mechnik, what's your guilty pleasure food?
That's a hard one. I was just thinking about that the other day because I realized that I like French fries far more than I ever realized.
Really?
Yeah. So it's kind of a toss-up, though, between those or a hot fudge sundae.
Okay.
With, with nuts.
Or maybe one of each.
Maybe both.
The French fries will be my entree. The hot fudge sundae will be my
the dessert.
Or maybe vice versa.
I have done that.
I'm not going to lie to you. Barb Abney, your guilty pleasure food. I love this. I love the tension, the dramatic tension that's forming here in the studios of the Alive and Social Network. This is good. I like this.
I'm
can't
going
wait
on
to hear
on a
this.
foodie podcast
I know.
and saying
Excited.
You know, it's guilty pleasure. If it's trashy food or whatever.
it's so-
let it. Oh my God, let it be. Again, as Lydia Turner clearly made a point of saying earlier, we're trying to demystify this. We love great foods. We love fine foods. We love the
this is not
pretentious
fine.
foods. But we also want to make sure, because everybody has the tater tot Velveeta something in their life or whatever it might be. So what do you got?
I love like finding a fresh egg salad sandwich at like a convenience store, at like a holiday. It's like, is that an egg salad sandwich? Can I eat that in my car? Egg salad in the car.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
I'll make my own
more
egg salad at
special.
home. Right. I would never eat that in my. I would never buy one of those and take it home or take it in like work and eat it. Like no,
You
never.
don't want anyone to see
You
you
must
eating it.
know.
I will park, in a place in a parking lot
Because
like-
I'm guilty. That's why it's a guilty pleasure.
and I will sit there and eat my holiday egg salad sandwich.
I
It's
love
so
it.
terrible.
I did one of the grossest things last night.
What'd you do?
I was by myself in my duplex, and I was hungry and I couldn't find anything, so I hunkered down with hot fudge and brittle and just
baby.
went to
Jeez.
town.
Oh, nice.
That's my new guilty pleasure food.
And it was just hot fudge and brittle, no ice cream or anything. Just
Oh,
the,
no,
just the two
nothing
of you.
more.
So
I
you were
don't think you
literally
need anything
You were
more.
dipping the brittle into the
Yep.
hot fudge.
My teeth
that
hurt
sounds
right
good.
now thinking about it. Oh my gosh.
I think that the room was just filled with type 2 diabetes. It just suddenly, I don't know what that
I
means,
do
but,
believe so.
but the air is redolent with type 2 shug going on right
that
here.
peeps
right
in
now.
the air?
It was the smell of peeps.
From where I'm from, they didn't call it diabetes. They called it sugar. Oh yeah, he's got sugar.
He's got
He's
sugar.
got sugar
got
or
sugar.
the shug.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the shug going on. I can't thank you enough for joining in on this Foodie Friday. We do appreciate you being a part of the Alive and Social Network. Lyd, let's throw some props to our pals Terry Daniels and
Yes.
Tracy Blowers. They do a fun show that's on every Thursday, and it's all
Yep.
about eating stuff here in the area
It's
as well.
all about finding and scavenging all the good things to eat. That is Eat This Twin Cities. You can find it at aliveandsocial.com. Our friends over at Eat This. We love those guys.
And I want to make sure I throw some props out to the other great shows that happen here at the Alive and Social Network. Sports guy Jeff Dubay and sports writer Jim Suhan. We've got the Pub Crawl show going on. We got the Great Northern Sex show going on. Just a lot of cool, different, diverse content that you can get and get it on your schedule. That's what the podcast world is all about. You might be listening us doing this stream live as it happens, and we do the shows live as they happen through the internet stream, but moreover, it's like TiVo or DVR audio content. You can get it on your schedule, find the things that are of interest to you, or maybe something that you wouldn't think might be of interest to you if somebody mentions it, and you see it, and you go to it, and you go suddenly, like the serendipity in the kitchen. You know, you suddenly, oh, well, all right, we made this recipe happen, and this works for me. So there's a lot of great offerings like that on the Alive and Social Network, and we appreciate you tuning into the podcast for Foodie Friday. Barb Abney, what's next in your world before we say so long? Anything special coming up? Any food trips? Any Cincinnati chili in your future, my friend?
Actually, there will be Cincinnati chili this weekend. Well, my son's birthday is today, and my partner's birthday is Monday. So hello, somewhere in there we're going to have some Skyline, and probably I'll make some fake La Rosa's hoagies, because hoagies are like a flat meat patty in Cincinnati. They're not lunch meat, and they're on a hoagie bun with a little bit of tomato sauce and some mozzarella cheese and some pickles and onions. So
it's like a
we're
whole
going to go
different
all
world
Cincinnati.
at Cincinnati.
I know.
Oh,
so
that sounds
we'll
good.
probably have a Cincinnati meal.
And I like the fact that you didn't even call it Cincinnati chili. We're going to make some Skyline.
Yeah.
You use the brand name of the restaurant.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because that's the way you're going to make it. Their style.
Do you use bandages or Band-Aids?
Yeah, see, there you go.
Yeah, you use Band-Aids.
I'm a
don't you?
Band-Aid,
Yeah.
right. I'm going to make some Skyline.
There you go.
That's what's happening. How about you, Nikki Metchnick? What's around the corner in the foodie world or just the Nikki world that you'd like to share?
The most exciting thing, and it's not that exciting, but I've never been to Restaurant Oma, which seems like a crime.
Wow, good for
I
you.
know. So Gary and I are going there on Sunday for our anniversary.
Husband Gary and Nikki making their way to Restaurant Alma.
So
Yeah.
I'm very excited about
Alex
that.
is just fantastic. So, yeah, he and his entire crew. That's going to be a good one.
Can't wait.
And happy anniversary
Thank
to you
very
guys as
much.
well.
Thank you.
How many years now?
18.
Nice.
I think.
Yeah. Well, you reach a certain
I
point,
think that's right.
and you got to think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And that's okay that you got to think about it. That just means it's a nice continuation.
Exactly.
Nice indeed. I want to throw some props out to Joy Summers, whom we talked about earlier, as she was weighing in on this whole Minneapolis St. Paul magazine deal. Her site is Minneapolis Eater. We were pretty
There it
darn
is.
close. So Minneapolis.eater.com, and you can follow her at Joy, Estelle, Estelle, on the Twitter, and also at Eater, MPLS. You'll find out more, and we're going to get Joy on a show soon because she's a fun person to talk to and a great eater, like we all are on Foodie Friday on the Alive and Social Network. Barb, thanks again.
Thanks for having me, man.
Nikki, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Nate, we appreciate you being there in the ether right now. Nate Beck, proprietor of Nate Dogs, will join us on a Foodie Friday soon, and we'll make sure you know via the social media output that we do. You can follow us on Twitter. It's Foodie Friday BLT, because I'm B and T and she's L and T together. Yeah, we're your favorite sandwich.
It's
You're
pretty
darn
damn
right
clever.
we are. It's at Foodie Friday BLT. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you, Dad.
And that's Foodie Friday for today. Join us next week.